In the 3rd year of my clandestine romance with my stepbrother, my family arranged a marriage for him. The prospective partner is an Omega who is compatible with him in every conceivable aspect. He gladly accepted. One evening, he knocked on my door and solemnly stated, "As long as you do not cause a stir, our relationship will remain unchanged." I nodded in obedient agreement, as I always do. I did not reveal to him that I too had been arranged for an engagement. The suitor is the heir of the Xie family, albeit regrettably afflicted with a disability that renders him incapable of bearing children. Upon our first encounter, he tossed a card before me and darkly warned, "There are 10 million in this card. Do not harbor illusions that marriage will lead to my marking you, nor should you think I will ever come to love you." 3 months later, I stared at the pregnancy test results, engulfed in silence. Jing gazed at me with profound intensity, his voice laced with menace. "Is it mine? Or someone else's?" 1. Heian, do not make a fuss. Yan's gaze was half lowered. "You know in your heart that I will eventually marry, but that person." He lifted his eyes to meet mine directly, completing the unspoken words, "will not be you. As long as you do not cause trouble, our relationship will remain unchanged, forever." Over the past 3 years, I have often heard the phrase, "do not make a fuss." I wished to hold his hand openly, yet I was told not to make a fuss. When drunk, I wanted him to pick me up, but I was advised not to make a fuss. I longed for public acknowledgement, but again, I was told not to make a fuss. I had heard it too many times. Even at his engagement, I was to refrain from causing a scene. I tugged at the corners of my mouth, managing a somewhat sardonic smile. I remained silent. Yan furrowed his brow. "What are you laughing at?" "Nothing." I raised my eyes to look at him and shook my head. "Brother, I will be obedient. I will absolutely not make a fuss." The relationship Yan referred to was our clandestine affair spanning 3 years. No one knew about my romance with Yan. To the outside world, he treated me as merely a younger brother. Just a brother. Seeing me as compliant as ever, Yan finally smiled and gently ruffled my hair. "I knew you were the most well-behaved. And then, indeed, whether as a brother or as a lover, I was always the most obedient, the most compliant. Unfortunately, obedience and compliance proved futile." Yan's phone rang. I caught a glimpse of the name Jiang Yunzu, the Omega he was to wed. So they had established contact. Yan told me to sleep early, answering the call as he walked away. I turned back to my room and closed the door. I began to pack my belongings. Today at noon, it wasn't just Yan who was arranged for marriage. I was also arranged for my own. I was to wed the heir of the Xie family, an alpha who had lost the use of his legs in a car accident and was rumored to be infertile. They did not consult me. It was a necessity. Soon, I could put an end to this hidden relationship with Yan. 2. Yan did not return all night. After finishing breakfast, he came back from outside. "Why not eat a bit more?" he remarked, observing the untouched breakfast on the table, his brow knitting together. "You are too thin," and then, as Yan approached, a strange scent of pheromones invaded my nostrils. I then realized he was still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. The collar concealed only half of the hickey, the other half exposed to the air, as if silently proclaiming to me. I discreetly took a step back. "I'm full." Yan appeared somewhat helpless but said nothing more, merely ruffling my hair out of habit. "All right, if you're hungry, ask Aunt Zhang to prepare something for you. I'll go take a nap. Don't call me for lunch." I lowered my eyes. "All right." This display of concern might have appeared as a sign of a good relationship to others, but I found it ironic. Once the silence settled, I headed upstairs, dragging my suitcase behind me. No one would pay me any mind. I took a taxi to the address my mother provided. Standing outside the iron gate, alongside my oversized suitcase, I confirmed the address before pressing the doorbell. Moments later, the door opened. No one inquired about my identity. They simply led me inside. After walking for a while, we arrived at the residence. The butler escorted me to a room on the 2nd floor. "Young master, this is your room. Next door is the young master's room. If there's nothing urgent, please refrain from disturbing him." I nodded. Understood. It seemed that this heir of the Xie family was not easy to get along with. I let out a long sigh. In their territory, I would have to tread carefully from now on. To my surprise, I soon encountered Jing. Upon seeing his appearance, I was momentarily taken aback. No wonder so many Omegas were eager to marry him. Wealth accounted for part of it, but his looks contributed significantly as well. He sat in a wheelchair and frowned in displeasure when he noticed my gaze upon him. I blinked. Was I being looked down upon? After all, it was our first meeting. I took the initiative to greet him. Hello, Mr. Xie, my name is Hien, and I am your Omega. 3. As my words echoed in the living room, a sudden silence enveloped the space. My smile froze on my face as I realized what I had just said. I meant to say, I am your future Omega. Even more strangely, Jing cast a fleeting glance at me, remaining silent. The butler pushed the wheelchair forward and addressed me. Young master, please accompany me to the study. In the study, it was just Jing and me. A bank card was placed before me, and when I appeared lost in thought, Jing's voice, cold as ice, snapped me back. This card contains 10 million. Feel free to use it. However, he continued, his icy gaze fixed on me. Even if we marry, I will not mark you, nor will I ever fall in love with you. So, if you wish to share my bed, I advise you to abandon that hope. I had done my research upon learning of my impending marriage to Jing. He had a notorious temper, was reclusive, and had a profound disdain for Omegas. It seemed that the rumors were indeed true. I smiled faintly. Very well, Mr. Xie. I understand. After all, it was merely a marriage of convenience. With no feelings involved, I could hardly blame Jing for not accepting me. I returned to my room with the card. After showering, I lay in bed and received a call from Yan. Why aren't you home? When will you return? I'm waiting for you to eat together. I tightened my grip on the phone, staring at the ceiling. I softly replied, I'm not coming back. What do you mean? Yan, I'm not coming back, I reiterated. There was a pause on the other end before Yan chuckled. Are you upset? He sighed. What is it this time? The marriage or something else? I had quarreled with Yan a few times, but this was my first time leaving. When he saw I was silent, his tone gradually turned impatient. Ian, come back quickly. Don't make me say it twice. Once again, Yan never considered my feelings. As I gazed at the unfamiliar room, I proposed a breakup to Yan. What did you say? After a long silence, his voice, laced with anger, broke through. Hien, what did you just say? I casually repeated. Yan, let us break up. Yan paused, his laughter turning to rage. Ian, what kind of tantrum are you throwing? Return home within half an hour. I won't hold it against you this time. I stated, Yan, I don't want to live like this. You're getting married. Is it appropriate for me to continue our secret relationship? Therefore, I want to break up with you. Without waiting for Yan to respond, I swiftly hung up. 4. Since that incident, Yan has not sent me any messages or made any calls. In his words, it was best to let me stew and wait until I could no longer bear it and would beg for reconciliation. He had grown accustomed to my appeasement and submission, making it all too easy for him to manipulate me. However, a week passed, and I still had not contacted him. In contrast, I was enjoying a comfortable life at Jing's residence. Throughout this week, Jing never returned home for dinner with me. Even when we crossed paths, he wouldn't initiate any conversation. I often found myself greeting him first, yet most of my attempts were met with indifference. Aunt Zhang privately comforted me, saying, the young master is just like that. Don't take it to heart. I smiled and nodded. Rest assured, I won't take it to heart. Greeting Jing had become a mere formality. His lack of response mattered little to me. Until one evening, Jing surprisingly returned for dinner. I ate slowly, waiting for him to set his chopsticks down before I finished my meal. Come home with me tomorrow. Jing spoke casually, as if discussing a trivial matter. I was somewhat taken aback but refrained from probing further. All right, I replied. The following day, Jing and I arrived at his home, where only his father and stepmother were present. Jing's biological mother had passed away when he was merely 10 years old, and within a fortnight, his father had welcomed his stepmother into their lives. It was rumored within their circle that Jing had a strained relationship with his father, and it seemed to be the case indeed. The meeting Jing had mentioned was nothing more than a fleeting encounter. We spent less than 5 minutes together before departing. No matter how furious his father became, Jing did not glance back. Once in the car, Jing unexpectedly spoke up. When you have the time, you should also visit your parents. Since my move, they had not reached out to me. Sure, I replied, though I had no idea when that meeting might occur. At the age of 10, my mother married into the Shin family, where Yan was already 14. He understood the implications of having a stepmother and recognized that my presence as a burden signified a potential dispute over inheritance. Xin Yan was not fond of me. One night, while I slept, he tossed a small mouse onto my bed, leaving me sobbing nearly to the point of suffocation. My mother instructed me not to speak of it, so I swallowed my grievances and learned to appease Xin Yan, only to be consistently ignored. It wasn't until a car accident that my fortunes shifted. Without hesitation, I shielded Xin Yan with my own body, enduring the sharp pain of shattered glass against my back. In a daze, I caught sight of Xin Yan's reddened eyes. I remained in a coma for 2 days in the hospital, during which my mother informed me that Xin Yan had stayed by my side. Afterward, he ceased to ignore me, and his demeanor toward me changed significantly. He began to show concern and offered comfort during my moments of sadness. Our bond deepened, and in my freshman year of college, he confessed his feelings, leading to a clandestine relationship that lasted 3 years, unknown to anyone. I had once inquired why Xin Yan chose to keep our relationship hidden. He gazed at me gently and smiled. "There's no rush. We shall disclose it when the time is right." Because of his words, I waited patiently, only to hear him casually remark to a friend that it was just a fling, and to learn of his impending arranged marriage. For several consecutive days, Jing remained at home. I discreetly inquired with the housekeeper, who did not conceal the truth. He explained that Jing's sensitive period was approaching, and he would be at home for the week. The housekeeper's tone was grave, laden with an oppressive warning. "However, young master, do not entertain any inappropriate thoughts. Last time, an oblivious Omega attempted to lure young master during his sensitive period with pheromones, and now he serves someone else." Jing was indeed peculiar. I managed a strained smile, assuring him, "Rest assured, I harbor no such intentions." That night, as I prepared to sleep, a cacophony from the adjacent room startled me awake. I remembered that Jing's room was next door. With only the two of us on the second floor, I contemplated whether to check on him. However, the housekeeper's warning echoed in my mind like a devil's whisper, and I quickly dismissed the notion. It was simple. I did not wish to meet my demise just yet. I had yet to exhaust the 10 million Jing had given me. Therefore, I could not afford to perish. The housekeeper did not come upstairs for a considerable time. I lay there staring at the ceiling before finally deciding to get out of bed. My reasoning was straightforward. Should anything happen to Jing, I would have to leave again. Upon reaching his door, I hesitated and turned back, retrieving several barrier patches from the drawer to apply to my glands. If Jing were indeed experiencing his sensitive period, I could buy myself some time. Approaching his door, I knocked twice. There was no response. "Mr. Xie, are you all right?" As I continued knocking and inquiring, a long while passed before I heard Jing's voice. "Get lost." He sounded as if he were on the verge of death. After a brief moment of hesitation, I took a deep breath and turned the doorknob to enter. The room was inundated with pheromones, overwhelming me like a mountain pressing down, making it nearly impossible to breathe. Gritting my teeth, I stepped inside, only to find Jing sprawled on the floor, seemingly struggling to rise. A thin sheen of sweat glistened on his forehead. "I told you to get lost. Did you not hear me?" Jing's eyes were bloodshot. The potency of the pheromones during his sensitive period made breathing arduous. I approached and helped him to his feet. "I heard you," I replied. Jing was panting, and I was as well. It felt unbearably heavy. I assisted him into a wheelchair, where he appeared somewhat disoriented yet still managed to issue a warning. "Who permitted your presence? I have warned you before. Do not entertain thoughts of using such a base approach to have me mark you." I nodded vigorously. "Mr. Xie, please rest assured, I have no such intentions." As I spoke, my gaze inadvertently fell upon Jing's legs. 3 years prior, Jing had collided with a speeding vehicle on an overpass. Due to delays in rescue, he could no longer stand. The news of the incident still circulated online. Seeing me look at his legs seemed to strike a nerve. "Do you pity me?" he snapped. I abruptly regained my senses and instinctively apologized. "I meant no offense, Mr. Xie." "Get lost!" Jing seized his phone and hurled it against the wall. I said, "Get lost." I dared not move. The pheromones seeped from every pore, clouding my mind. I couldn't afford to consider whether Jing might harm me. I grabbed a suppressor from the table, ready to inject him, when he suddenly clutched my throat, yanking me forward, and then bit me. With brutal force, Jing tore off the barrier patch from my gland, disregarding my struggles, and began injecting his pheromones into my very being. The unfamiliar pheromones surged within me, rendering my limbs feeble and my scalp tingling. Jing, let me go, I pleaded. Release me. His grip was like iron, unwavering, no matter how fiercely I struggled. He continued to inject pheromones, awakening my own heat. Summoning the last remnants of my strength, I grasped a needle that had fallen to the floor and jabbed it into his hand. Jing released me, and I stumbled away, dragging my weakened legs. I slammed the door shut, panting heavily as my chest rose and fell. Once I regained my composure, I retrieved a suppressor and administered an injection. The next day, I awoke to find my glands swollen beyond measure, even the barrier patches failing to conceal them. Descending the stairs, I found Jing already seated at the dining table. Upon hearing my footsteps, he slowly lifted his gaze. It appeared he had regained some semblance of normalcy, while I stood frozen in place. After a tense half-minute, I approached Jing to greet him and subsequently took a seat beside him, lowering my head to silently consume my breakfast. My glands still throbbed with pain, and even without looking at Jing, I could feel his intense gaze upon me. I suddenly regretted my decision to visit his room the previous night. Jing called suddenly. I bit you last night. I was at a loss for the meaning behind his words and could only nod in response. Upon meeting my bewildered gaze, he smirked, a glimmer of derision in his eyes. Your pheromones are useful to me. I was perplexed. Jing continued. In the future, during my sensitive periods, you will soothe me. I will pay you for it. However, let me reiterate this, he added. Do not entertain any delusions of me marking you completely. And do not think for a second that I will fall in love with you. At this, I understood. I was to serve as Jing's human suppressor, albeit an unwelcome one. After a moment of contemplation, I acquiesced. After all, the other party had gifted me 10 million. Moreover, it was merely a matter of borrowing some pheromones. 3 days later, Yan's engagement was scheduled. He mentioned it in the family group chat, allowing me a glimpse. Yan was being deliberate. I replied with a simple, congratulations. The group fell into a profound silence. Yan could no longer hold back and sent me a message. It's been almost half a month. How long do you intend to continue this? Is running away from home enjoyable? Do you think you are formidable? I responded, the matter of marriage is not within my purview. What do you want me to do? Reject the union and marry you instead? What would your mother think? What would others think? I glanced at the message for merely a second before shutting my phone. Yan was right, we could never marry. If we did, my mother would be ridiculed for using her son to stabilize a wealthy family's status. The Shin family would be shamed. Thus, it was impossible for us to be together. Yet, I could not comprehend why we had been together in the first place if that were the case. Upon waking the next day, I discovered that Yan had called me numerous times, all of which I had deleted. I had no time to engage in such sentimental games with him. After freshening up, I knocked on Jing's door. Every morning, I made it a point to comfort Jing. Though I called it comforting, it was more about letting him take a bite out of me. Jing's pheromones were somewhat volatile and unstable. I learned that he had experienced trauma in his childhood, which was the cause of his pheromone-induced stress. Omega pheromones could not soothe him. Fortunately, mine could. Yan behaved like a dog, and when I ignored him, he would cling to me desperately, offering to forgive me if I admitted my fault. I found it bothersome and blocked him. On the day of Yan's engagement, Jing accompanied me. He glanced at Jing beside me, his brow slightly furrowing. He seemed on the verge of saying something but ultimately remained silent. Jiang Yunzhao approached, dressed in a tailored white suit, greeting us with a polite smile. His probing gaze fell upon me. You must be Hien, right? It was no surprise that Jiang Yunzhao recognized me. After all, I had been the subject of much discussion in this circle. Upon my nod, Jiang Yunzhao's smile widened. Yan's brother, he has mentioned you. I thought you wouldn't attend our engagement banquet. I smiled and replied, with my brother getting engaged, how could I possibly miss it? Jing stood beside me, his expression frosty, as if he might freeze someone with his demeanor. Noticing his impatience, I handed Jiang Yunzhao the gift in my hand. Wishing you a joyous engagement. Under Yan's watchful gaze, I ushered Jing away, oblivious to the subtle shift in his expression. Once we reached a quieter area, I halted and asked, Mr. Xie, are you feeling unwell? Jing was still in his sensitive period. Such a situation was better suited for home, given the tenuous nature of our relationship. Although our union had not yet been publicly announced, it had become common knowledge.
Jing replied nonchalantly. No.
I sighed with relief. Then, if you're here, may I use the restroom? Just as I exited the restroom, Xinyan yanked me into an empty booth, his face contorted with anger. Hian, why did you block me? Xinyan demanded, his voice filled with fury. I frowned and replied coolly, because I find you tiresome. Tiresome? Xinyan could hardly believe it. He inhaled deeply. Are you still angry with me? Hian, matters of marriage are not for you and me to decide. Understand? I stated, Xinyan, I am not angry. Upon hearing my words, he seemed unable to contain himself any longer, suppressing the fury that threatened to erupt. Not angry. He pointed toward the door. Then what is your relationship with him? Xinyan exclaimed. Do you even know who he is? The heir of the Xie family. Someone you're not worthy of. And he has a fiancée. Are you trying to be the homewrecker? I pushed Xinyan away and met his gaze head-on. And what about you? Wanting me to continue a clandestine affair with you is no different from being a mistress. Xinyan fell silent, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. This is not the same. What makes it different? Besides, he is not just anyone. I paused, my voice firm. He is my alpha. Xinyan's expression shifted, disbelief flickering in his eyes. What did you say? Jing is your alpha? He burst into laughter as he spoke. Hian, if you're going to make excuses, at least make them plausible. How could Jing possibly be your alpha? This is no laughing matter. I had no desire to engage in further trivialities with him. I attempted to leave, but Xinyan seized my arm. And let's not quarrel, all right? I impatiently shook off his hand, emphasizing each word. Xinyan, I am not quarreling. He opened his mouth to say something, but his phone rang. It was Zhang Yunzhao calling. No, it's nothing. I ran into an old friend and chatted for a bit. I'm heading over now. After hanging up, before departing, Xinyan looked down at me from his height. After the engagement banquet, I will apologize to you. And then be good. With that, he turned and left without a backward glance. On the way back, Jing's impatience was palpable. I thought you were going to elope. His tone was flat, slightly mocking. Jing had thoroughly investigated me as his prospective partner, and I was not surprised that he knew about my past with Xinyan. However, his words were indeed sharp. Once Xinyan's engagement banquet concluded, we did not linger and departed directly. My stepfather and mother seemed only to have eyes for Xinyan and Jing, engaging in lengthy discussions with Jing, completely oblivious to my presence beside him. This too was acceptable. Jing arranged for someone to drive me home as he headed to the company. I said nothing and entered another car. In the middle of the night, hunger struck, prompting me to seek a midnight snack. Passing by Jing's room, I noticed he had yet to return. Even the study lights were off. It was only 12:30. Jing never retired this early. Just as I descended the stairs, the front door swung open, and his assistant hurriedly wheeled Jing inside. Jing's hand lay on the wheelchair, veins bulging, and 2 buttons of his shirt had come undone. They quickly ascended the stairs. Within a minute, the assistant rushed back down, and upon catching sight of me, he seemed to have found a savior. Hello, you must be Mr. Xie's Omega, right? I'm Su Yen, Mr. Xie's assistant. I was somewhat taken aback. I suppose so. Su Yan's eyes lit up. Mr. Xie is feeling a bit unwell, and he won't let me near him. Could you please go up and take care of him? I beg you. It was evident that Jing was indeed unwell. Su Yan was anxious, and I acquiesced. All right. Thank you, thank you. Upon reaching upstairs, I found Jing lying in bed, seemingly restless. As I reached out, my hand was firmly grasped by Jing. He opened his eyes. The heat radiating from him was intense. Leave. Jing's voice was hoarse. Was he feverish? Are you unwell? Shall I call a doctor? I said leave. I was at a loss for words. If you want me to leave, at least let go of my hand first. Are you feeling unwell again due to your sensitive period? Jing's sensitive period had not yet concluded. Yet he insisted on pushing himself. Serves him right. I turned around and peeled off the suppression patch on my neck. The rose-scented pheromones intertwined around Jing, enveloping him. I bent down and said, Mr. Xie, could you please bite me? Jing's breath was heavy, the warmth of his exhalation brushing against my ear, yet he remained motionless. Just as I was about to raise my hand, My neck was firmly gripped and pressed down. Jing bit into my neck with an intensity greater than ever before. After a long while, I finally realized something was amiss. He licked my gland with his tongue and bit down again with renewed force. Jing had never lingered this long in his bites before, and it seemed his pheromones were spiraling out of control. Fear began to creep in. Jing. He remained silent, the chaotic pheromones ferociously infiltrating my gland. I struggled to free myself from his grasp, but he held me down, rendering me immobile. Tears welled in my eyes from the pain. Jing. Let me go. Yet, he turned a deaf ear, continuing to flood my gland with his pheromones. Soon, I felt an overwhelming heat enveloping me, igniting my estrous cycle once more. If this continued, I would lose control. I fought harder against him, and finally, he released me. Then, with a violent rip, my clothes were torn apart. Jing, with great strength, pulled me by the waist and slammed me onto the bed, his body looming over mine, desire swirling in his eyes. Though his legs were incapacitated, he was still capable in other ways and quite ample. Mr. Xian. My hands felt weak as I attempted to invoke his sanity with words, but to no avail. The instant he entered, pain surged through me, and tears streamed down my face. When dawn approached, I dragged my battered body back to my room. The housekeeper stood at the foot of the stairs, staring in shock as I emerged from Jing's room. Please do not inform Mr. Xie about this. He is fine now. You may go in and help him tidy up. With that, I turned and returned to my room. Upon waking, I found myself in the hospital, receiving 4 fluids. I learned that the housekeeper had discovered me burning with fever and had rushed me to the hospital. Thankfully, Jing remained unaware. I reached up to touch my gland, which throbbed with pain. The lifelong marking, whether on the gland or the body, was excruciating. Glancing at my phone, I saw that Xinyan had changed his number and messaged me, or perhaps tagged me in a group chat. A flurry of notifications caused my phone to lag for a moment. With a cold expression, I patiently added him to my blacklist once more. I spent 2 days in the hospital. When I returned home, I coincidentally encountered Jing as he prepared to leave. Upon seeing him, a momentary fear gripped me, as memories of that night flooded back. Jing frowned. You. Mr. Xie, I'm not feeling well. I will return to my room. Without glancing back at him, I quickened my pace upstairs. I avoided Jing for 2 days. Each time I saw him, it felt as though I were encountering a ghost, wishing to distance myself as far as possible. Are you afraid of me? Jing raised his head, the question emerging as a certainty from his lips. I hesitated, then shook my head. No, Mr. Xie. Is that so? He gestured to the seat beside him, coolly stating, come sit. I was perplexed by Jing's sudden shift in demeanor. After a few seconds of hesitation, I resignedly took a seat beside him, the scent of his presence enveloping me. When my mother called, I was basking in the sunlight. She said nothing at first, remaining silent for what felt like an eternity before finally saying, Enan, Xinyan is now engaged. Please, do not contact him anymore, all right? My mind buzzed, my throat felt scorched, and after a long pause, I hoarsely asked, you know? Listen to your mother, she replied, evading my question. You two are not suited for one another. A mocking smile tugged at my lips. The secrets Xinyan had tried so hard to conceal had long been discovered. All right, rest assured, I will not disturb him, nor will I contact him. My mother sighed in relief. That's good. After hanging up, I calmly gazed out the window. Throughout the entire conversation, she never inquired if I was adjusting well here or if I was doing okay. Her only concern was for Xinyan. Xinyan came to the Xie residence to find me. Upon seeing him, I felt nothing but annoyance. What do you want? Xinyan seemed taken aback by my directness, momentarily stunned before recovering and questioning me. Why did you blacklist my number? I sent you countless messages and called you numerous times. If you choose not to respond, then fine, but why blacklist me? And so, I retorted, is that all? Finally, Xinyan grew impatient. What do you want from me? I have lowered myself to speak with you, and yet you still want to cause a scene? This was the real Xinyan. His previous patience was merely an act. In truth, he lacked any patience for me, only displaying annoyance. Once he realized he could not manipulate me, his true nature began to surface. I am not causing a scene, Xinyan. Xinyan raised his voice. Then what do you mean by wanting to break up? What does the engagement mean? There is no reason. I simply want to break up, I stated. The engagement is my own affair. It has nothing to do with you. Shen was left speechless. His expression darkened, and he pulled out a cigarette from his pocket, lighting it. After a few puffs, he said, "Fine, if you want to break up." A mocking smile crept onto his lips as he exhaled a smoke ring. "Then let us part ways. I'll see how long you can hold out. Ian, don't come begging me later. I will not be soft-hearted." No one came to disturb me. I found myself quite at ease, save for Jing's occasional perplexing behavior. For instance, just now, I received a text from my bank confirming a deposit of 20 million. Staring at the multitude of zeros, I was taken aback. The Shen family was wealthy, but I had never seen any of it. Thus, in addition to the previous 10 million that Jing had given me, I now had 30 million. Felt excessive. After some contemplation, I decided to inquire with Jing. "Mr. Xie, is this money meant for me?" Jing glanced up from his documents, responding to my question with a look of mild surprise. "Is it less?" Quickly shook my head. "No, it's more." He gave me a cursory glance before returning his attention to the papers. His voice remained devoid of inflection. "Your comforting presence has been a tremendous help to me. In the future, I will provide you with a sum of money. However, aside from financial support, there will be nothing else." The implication was clear. While monetary assistance was available, emotional involvement was not. "I understand, Mr. Xie," I replied. He paused briefly before stating, "Sever ties with the person outside. I have no need for infidelity." I was momentarily taken aback before realizing he was referring to Shen. "I have no relationship with him, Mr. Xie. That is for the best." Calculating the days, it had been over a month since Shen last contacted me. Not to mention Jing, aside from the last encounter, my mother had not inquired about my well-being either. However, I frequently communicated with Jing regarding projects. I had been here for almost 3 months now, feeling as though I were in a dream. As I descended the stairs, Aunt Zhang approached and asked if I would like something light to eat. I nodded. "Yes, please, Aunt Zhang." She scrutinized my face with concern, saying, "Your face has thinned out significantly. In recent days, I felt as if I were possessed. I could hardly eat anything and often felt nauseated. Even a small amount would lead to vomiting in the middle of the night, and I was plagued by excessive sleepiness." I sighed, planning to find a time to go to the hospital for a checkup. As Aunt Zhang turned to leave, she murmured, "These symptoms resemble pregnancy." A jolt ran through me, but I quickly dismissed the notion. Jing was not capable of fatherhood. I could not be pregnant. In the afternoon, Jing returned. The butler mentioned that today Jing would also undergo a gland examination, and suggested that I should have one as well. Once the results were revealed, I found myself frozen in place. Staring at the various indicators on the report, it was unmistakably clear I was pregnant. My eyes widened in disbelief. Wasn't Jing supposed to have issues? "Ian," a familiar voice called from behind me, prompting me to turn. It was Shen. "What's this? Did you follow me to the hospital?" Shen wore a smug expression, his gaze fixated on the report in my hand. He snatched it away, and upon comprehending its contents, his expression soured. "You're pregnant," he spat, his words laced with anger, eyes ablaze. "Whose child is it? Jing's? Ian, how dare you?" Furrowing my brow, I subtly retreated a step. "What does it have to do with you?" His words seemed to strike a nerve. "After being with you for 3 years, I've never touched you. And now, after such a short time, you're already pregnant. Ian, how could you do this?" I was not surprised by Shen's outburst. "Shen, you're being rather amusing." "Yes, my alpha. It's not abnormal for me to be carrying his child, is it?" Shen retorted. "Who doesn't he know that Jing is incapable of procreation?" "Ian, have you lost your mind?" Just then, Jing was wheeled in. His gaze swept over Shen and me, holding his phone, its screen aglow. The electronic report had already been sent to Jing's device the moment the results came in. At that moment, I could no longer concern myself with Shen. All I felt was despair. Should I admit it or deny it? On my very first day in the Xie household, Jing had warned me that he would not mark me. Yet now, he had not only marked me for life, but I was also with child. Clutching the pregnancy report, I felt utterly lost. "Mr. Xie, please let me explain." "Someone else's?" Jing's voice was frigid as he looked up. I caught a glimpse of the butler behind him, whose lips were sealed tighter than stone, refusing to betray me. Before I could explain, Jing spoke first. casting a dispassionate glance at Shen Yan. Mr. Shen, if there is nothing urgent, we have some family matters to attend to. From a distance, Jiang Yunzhou's voice called out. Shen Yan ground his teeth. His gaze towards me filled with complexity, and he had no choice but to leave. In the car, I recounted the events of that night. Jing sat with his eyes closed, silent. Just as my anxiety peaked, he opened his eyes and turned to me. Did you have a fever because I marked you? It was more than just that. That night, our pheromones had intertwined uncontrollably. He had been reckless, fervently taking me, even as I pleaded for mercy. I was unsure why Jing hadn't thrown me out of the car at that moment, instead posing such a question. Yet I nodded in response. A heavy silence enveloped the vehicle. Upon returning home, I organized my meager belongings. I had little to pack. With 30 million in hand, I could go anywhere. I didn't want to wait for Jing to personally evict me, so I made my escape. When Jing found me, his expression was stormy. The butler, having witnessed many grand events, unceremoniously shoved Jing into my room and departed. Inside, it was just the two of us, exchanging glances. Mr. Xie, I stammered, rising in fright from my chair. This was it. Surely, Jing hadn't come to settle scores with me? You still remember me? Jing's voice was as cold as ice. Do you have any idea how long I've been searching for you? Running away with my child. Ian, you have some audacity. Jing was mistaken. I was not audacious. In fact, my legs had begun to tremble. I fell silent. Jing's voice was frigid. Shouldn't you explain yourself? Explain? What was there to explain? About running away with my child. Jing fixed his gaze on me, enunciating each word. Shouldn't you offer me an explanation? I felt like a mute, all words caught in my throat. After a prolonged silence, I managed to utter, Mr. Xie, didn't you say you didn't want this child? Jing paused, then looked up. Did I say that to you? He hadn't. Yet his demeanor had clearly indicated his disinterest in the child. In the midst of this silence, the door swung open. Pei Su entered, carrying a pile of items. Ian, I brought you some supplements. You're still pregnant, after all. As he spoke, Pei Su finally noticed Jing in the room, and curiously asked, Who is he? Before I could respond, Jing's voice cut through, darkened with ire. I am his alpha, the father of the child in his womb. Who are you? The term alpha stirred complex feelings within me. When I was with Shen Yan, he never acknowledged our relationship. To him, I was always just a brother. Thus, our connection remained at the level of siblings. Later, he attempted to reach out, but upon hearing his voice, I unhesitatingly blocked him. Jing's declaration caused my heart to feel as if it were submerged in fizzy water, tinged with a bittersweet ache. Pei Su looked to me for confirmation, yet found me rendered speechless. Suddenly, he grew furious. So you're that scoundrel? Jing was taken aback. What did you say? Before Pei Su could say more, I pushed him out. Pei Su, you should head back. Thank you for bringing me the items. I'll reach out to you once I've resolved this matter. Pei Su shot a wary glance at Jing but reluctantly complied. Then Ian, call me if you need anything. All right. Once again, it was just Jing and me. He furrowed his brow. Who is he? Ian, are you looking for a new father for my child? My stomach felt uneasy. Omega individuals require the comforting pheromones of an alpha during pregnancy. I had stolen Jing's clothes when I left. When discomfort arose, I would sniff them. But recently, the scent had faded, offering little solace. Mr. Xie, didn't you want me to leave? So I did. I sat on the sofa, feeling unwell. Rest assured, I won't disturb you. Jing frowned. When did I say I wanted you to leave? I was taken aback. I violated our agreement. Not only did I allow you to mark me for life, but I'm also carrying your child. In Jing's words, I was shameless. Ian. He interrupted me, his dark eyes fixed intently on me. Who was that person just now? A friend. He.s. already married. Why would he bring you something? Jing pressed, relentless. I couldn't shake the feeling that Jing was angry, which felt strange. His face was taut as he tore off the pheromone barrier and enveloped me in his scent, soothing me. The discomfort in my belly lessened. I finally said, his Omega thought my alpha was dead, which is why he took such good care of me. Jing's expression darkened. Did you tell others I was dead? I shook my head, fearing that any delay would lead to that accusation falling upon me. I didn't. After a while, once I felt sufficiently comforted, Jing retracted his pheromones. Ian, come back with me. I was taken aback. Xie Jing's expression remained stern. The child in your womb needs me. But you said, Xie Jing interrupted. I didn't say anything. Ultimately, I did not return with Xie Jing. He settled down with me, and the butler packed his belongings within an hour before departing with an air of nonchalance. I gazed at Xie Jing and remarked, I cannot take care of you. I do not require your care, Xie Jing replied. You should focus on yourself. That night, as I drifted into slumber, Xie Jing released his pheromones outside my door, allowing me to finally enjoy a restful night's sleep. However, Xie Jing suffered as a result, sporting dark circles under his eyes for 3 consecutive days. After some contemplation, I resolved to have an earnest conversation with him. Your initial agreement to this union was likely to appease the family, and I have already violated the terms we set forth. Mr. Xie, if you wish to terminate this union, please do not feel compelled to continue. I will not use a child to coerce you. Xie Jing's hand, resting on the wheelchair, froze. Are you suggesting we annul the union? I was about to clarify that I did not mean that when he coldly interjected, I disagree. I was taken aback. Ian, I am your alpha. I will take responsibility for you, Xie Jing said solemnly. I hope you can grant me a chance. Yet you do not harbor feelings for me. Ian, grant me a bit of time. I swallowed my words and simply replied, all right. A week later, Xie Jing proposed that we go abroad to register our marriage and formalize the arrangement. During this time, he consistently released his pheromones every night, from outside my door to within. I inquired, are you certain you do not want to reconsider? No need to reconsider, he replied resolutely. That very day, we boarded a private plane and obtained the necessary documents, signifying our binding commitment. I had assumed that the marriage registration was a spontaneous decision on Xie Jing's part, but the butler discreetly informed me that he had been contemplating this matter since returning from the hospital. Upon returning home and discovering my absence, he had become quite furious, even seeking out Xin Yan. Noticing my stunned expression, the butler sighed and stated, Mr. He, the young master has never been loved. He does not understand what love is. Perhaps he has already fallen, but remains unaware. He is different with you. He spent a considerable amount of time in your room that day. Yet, none of this could substantiate that Xie Jing loved me. At best, it indicated a slight divergence in his behavior. I instinctively touched the ring on my ring finger, which Xie Jing had placed on me an hour before we registered our marriage. He could not propose, only stating, I will take responsibility for you. If you find me unsatisfactory, you may still have regrets. I said nothing further, pushing Xie Jing inside until we became legally wedded. That night, my heat surged unexpectedly. Xie Jing lay beside me, the room saturated with his pheromones, which later mingled with mine. Xie Jing, I am burning. The heat during pregnancy is always arduous and increasingly frequent. I clung to Xie Jing's arm. Bite me. Though Xie Jing's legs were immobile, his determination to stay fit was unwavering. He embraced me with one arm and leaned down to bite. However, it proved ineffective. Breathlessly, I pleaded, please help me. Xie Jing closed his eyes and replied hoarsely, all right. Although he could not move, I could. Yet, ultimately, I lacked the strength to continue and collapsed onto Xie Jing's chest, succumbing to sleep. Half a month later, Xie Jing and I returned home, only to find Xin Yan waiting outside, blocking the car's path. He had evidently come to see me. Do you wish to meet? Some matters needed clarification. Xie Jing nodded. I shall wait for you inside. As I exited the vehicle, Xin Yan approached me briskly, and I did not marry Jiang Yunzhou. I called off the engagement. I was momentarily stunned by his words. Xin Yan, are you out of your mind? Are you not happy? Xin Yan grasped my hand. And please come back with me. I do not care whose child you carry. All I ask is for you to return. I freed my hand from his grasp, and he gazed at me calmly as I withdrew, a flicker of hurt in his eyes. I appeared oblivious to his feelings as I stated, I will not return with you. I have already registered my marriage with Xie Jing. Xin Yan stared at me in disbelief before suddenly laughing. And are you joking? This is just to provoke me, right? I am not trying to provoke you, Xin Yan. I truly have registered my marriage. I spoke softly, whether you believe it or not. Xie Jing and I are now lawful partners. Xin Yan fell silent for a moment, his eyes reddening. And what about me? You belong to the past. Do not seek me out again, Xin Yan. Why? Xin Yan seemed to be searching for an answer. After reflecting for a moment, I replied, He will not shy away from our relationship in public, nor will he put me in a difficult position. Although he appears cold, he treats me well. More importantly, he gives me choices and does not force me. Is that all? I affirmed that is sufficient. When my belly was 5 months along, Jing visited the hospital, not for gland examinations but to check his legs. Regrettably, the outcome remained unchanged. He would spend his life in a wheelchair. Do you wish to divorce? My heart felt as though it had been seized, aching painfully.
No divorce.
I held my chin high. I will not divorce. He offered a bittersweet smile as he caressed my neck, but I will never be able to stand again. Since returning, Jing had visited numerous doctors and tried every method available. Yet his legs remained unresponsive. Jing, it is all right. I will take care of you. Finally, Jing smiled. Cannot bear to let go. I refrained from sharing that I had awakened in the middle of the night to see him smoking on the balcony, resenting my own disability and wishing to preserve a semblance of dignity for him. That night, I lay in Jing's embrace and asked, "Is your care for me a sense of responsibility?" Jing remained silent for a long time before responding. No. I paused for a moment. Then is it love? He lowered his head to kiss my hair. This has been troubling me. I do not know if my feelings for you stem from responsibility or love, but it seems I have found the answer. It is love. I teased him deliberately, but you told me not to fantasize that you would ever love me. Jing appeared somewhat helpless. I was mistaken. A smile crept onto my lips as I leaned in to kiss him. Then that is well. Let us be bound together forever. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and give a thumbs up for support. Until we meet again in the next story.